Hi, good afternoon. For the record, could you just state your name and the organization that you represent?
My name is Shriniwas Rai. You want me to take the oath?
No, not yet. It's okay. Just that. Okay. Okay. The evidence that you'll be giving today before the committee will be taken on oath. So if you desire, you can also take an affirmation. Clerk of Parliament, please proceed with the oath.
I, Shriniwas Rai, swear that the evidence which I shall give before this committee shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God.
Thank you very much. Please be seated. Welcome to the public hearing on the Select Committee on Deliberate Online Falsehoods. The focus of today's evidence gathering session is for us to put questions to you, and you have taken a solemn obligation to answer our questions truthfully. And I'll now call on Mr. Edwin Tong. I'm sorry, Ms. Sun. Ms. Sun, you've indicated you want to ask some questions. Please proceed.
Sir, before I proceed, I've written to the clerk to circulate a newspaper, Financial Times of 9th of March. I don't think it has been circulated. If I could read the relevant portion with your permission.
Okay, please proceed.
Your Honor, it is entitled, sir, it is entitled, False News Spread Wider and Faster on Twitter, Scientists Find. It says, false news travel far faster and extend further than the truth on social media, researchers have found. In the largest scientific study so far.
Excuse me. Yes, I think
that's what I wanted to add.
It has been circulated. We are aware of it.
Thank you.
Yeah, you don't have to read it. Yeah. Ms. Sun, please proceed.
Yes. Good afternoon, Mr. Rai. Thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure.
We've all read your written submission. So for the purposes of today's hearing, I would be highlighting some of the points that you have mentioned in your submission. And if they're an accurate reflection of what you have submitted, we would appreciate if you could acknowledge it so that we could, the transcribers could have it noted down. So I understand that you are a council member of the interreligious organization, which represents 10 major religions in Singapore.
Yes, yes.
And that you are a member of the Hindu Endowments Board.
I was a former member of Hindu Endowment Board. I represent Hindu faith in the interreligious organization.
Okay, and that is a statutory board whose role is to administer those endowments placed under its administration.
Yes.
That's correct. Okay. I would now like to refer to your written submission. You mentioned in your written submission that you wish to confine your submission to 3 areas, namely race, religion, and language. I gather that the reason why you have confined your submission to these areas is because they are emotive and has caused great disharmony in many parts of the world. That is. I
agree with, and I reaffirm that before this committee that I think this is very sensitive in context of Singapore, where we are multiracial. Not only multiracial, we have 10 religions. I mean, some of public may not know what Baha'i religion, but we even have a Baha'i religion, which is now the constituent we have a Jain. And any housing board flat, if you go, you're likely to find more than 3 to 4 religions. So it is very important for us to maintain religious harmony as well as a racial harmony, sir.
Yes, I see that you mentioned that in the 4th paragraph of your submission. I note that on page 1, also in the 4th paragraph, you mentioned that you have seen 3 riots in Singapore, and at least 2 of them were caused by rumor. So you have actually physically seen those riots?
Yes, members of the Select Committee, I have. In fact, I remember the Prophet Muhammad's riot. I was in Market Street, and STC then was operating, ceased operation at 8 o'clock, and I had to walk right from Market Street to Tanjong Pagar. The fear I had, it's difficult to describe, and I don't think I have that fear any other time in my life.
You mentioned that this was some 50 years ago at the registration of national servicemen. That is the incident that you're talking about?
I'm having a bit difficulty hearing because I'm having a cold. Can you please repeat the question?
Sure. On page 2, in your 3rd paragraph, you particularly describe one riot. You mention some 50 years ago at the registration of national servicemen, some Malay recruits started rioting.
Yes.
Yes. So can I just confirm with you that you're referring to the 1969 race riots of Singapore?
No, you know, I don't think I have no newspaper. There was a registration of a national serviceman. I remember, I'm speaking from memory, I
Okay.
thought that, there was a registration of national servicemen, some Malay. Either they were discriminated or they were asked to secede, and that resulted in a small riot. And if I remember, I subject corrected, the Prime Minister himself had to go to the registration center. So rumors, my plea to this committee, the rumors, unless you check it at very beginning, it can cause great disharmony to the community at large. So, and the newspaper which I've quoted is a classic case. A scientific study now shows that there is a basis to believe that falsehood travel faster than the truth.
Yes.
And this is not from any other newspaper, but a very reputable newspaper called Financial Times. I mean, any other newspaper I may have, but this is a very respected newspaper, and I think this committee may want to look at it at length.
Yes. And I gather that now, so many years later, you still mention this here and in your written submission, goes to show how deeply entrenched in your mind that memory of it was. In fact, the word you used was the fear that you had then when you physically saw it yourself.
Mr. Chairman, sir, that fact that we have lived peacefully so far, religious and racially, and sometimes I think the younger generation, even my children's generation, take it for granted that this is the norm of the life. But I don't believe so, because when you travel to other parts of the world, you realize how fragile these things are. We are very fortunate because our political leadership and also our religious leadership have taken steps. The fact that IRO has got 10 religions, major and minor, speak for itself. It started 70 years ago. Next year would be 70th years of its formation. So I think it's very important for not just the political leadership, but the public at large to appreciate that we cannot take for granted that just because we had a harmony, we have racial harmony, religious harmony, that will be always order of the day. And I think the Parliament has done a wise thing in looking at this in certain detail. And I hope when the legislative framework is worked out, it will again be sent to Select Committee for the public to put its view, because Select Committee has always been a very useful forum for the public to participate.
Thank you, Mr. Rai. I note that on the point and you mentioned about legislation, in fact, in your submission, there are two areas whereby you say, and I quote, "We must try to create a new law." There was one point you made. And separately, you say that you hope and pray that the Select Committee sets up a proper legal framework to resolve the matter.
Mr. Chairman, sir, it is no use having a white paper or a blue paper or, the matter is debated. It is important for us to foresee the problems which are coming, and I think something laudable the government has come out. We have to have a legal framework. I'm not suggesting we should have a penal code, but the way the Religious Harmony Bill was crafted, maybe we should look at it at that in the same vein, whether we could work out something, because I don't think we should expose religious and racial thing in public domain, in a court of law. We should have a special body where it could look into this matter, like we have the Religious Harmony Bill, which is now a law now.
Ms. Soon, would you like to continue?
Yes. Just one last point, which was also a point that you mentioned earlier. You mentioned that there are people of different race and religion living together in every block of a HDB flat. And you also state in your submission that falsehoods in this context can lead to great harm because of the high-density housing population that we have in Singapore. Would you like to elaborate on that, please?
Sir, as I have said earlier, we have very dense population. I give you an example. I used to sit on as a special magistrate under as a justice of peace. And I had come across two cases I distinctly remember. One of the cases was involving two neighbors of two religions, and over burning of certain religious item. And the community leader has failed, but they went to the court. But fortunately, through the help of the court interpreters, all the matter was resolved. Now, in that particular flat, I know somebody who will live. There's a Hindu family. There's a Sikh friend I have there. I'm sure there'll be few Muslim, few Buddhist. So I think any housing board state you go, you'll find that we are a rather mixed religious and racial as well. Yeah.
And would you say that when we're talking about deliberate online falsehoods, because of the speed in which the falsehood can spread, the virality of it, that this is exacerbated because of the dense living conditions?
Yes, because it's, unlike other part of the world, you find people live in landed houses, maybe, you have neighbors who are far away, but we live in a very close-knit society, and any problem in anyone's housing block will just spread to the other. So I think it's very important for us, because other nation experience may not be as good as us, because we have got, thanks to the government policy, there's no racial, there's not one community live in certain area. I remember when I was very young, Geylang Serai used to be a predominantly Malay area, Kampung Kembangan, but now it has changed, Because of the social policy the government has started, every other state you may have all the religion, all the races,
Thank you, Mr. Rai. Chairman.
Any more questions? No? Okay, if there are no more questions, then I would like to thank Mr. Rai for coming here and participating and contributing to the select committee process. We'll be sending you the transcript of today's proceedings. Now go through it. If there are any mistakes and so on, please correct them and return them to us. Okay? On that. So,
I'll do that, yes.
Thank you very much once again.
My pleasure, sir.
Sergeant Arms will accompany you out. Okay. Could I call the next witness to the witness table?